Hello guys, Belle here, going to do another video for your spec spells and talents. Today we are going to be talking about the Elemental Shaman. Elementals, super awesome, a class that was largely ignored in Warlords of Draenor, not your PvP spec situation, a lot of hate for the Elemental Shamans in Warlords of Draenor, am I right? If you guys have not had a chance to see this beautiful breakdown here of your stats, it is condensed now. Don't know if anybody else knew that. As an elemental, here is your fist weapon, and then you do get your shield, which I'm not really sure if it's bugged out and why we couldn't really see it. I could have swore that you could see your shield. Let me see. Okay, there we go. There we go. There we go. So there's your shield. Here's what I like about this shield. I enjoy the elements. I appreciate what's going on here. I like how it is elemental in nature. I think they did a really good job on this artifact weapon for the elemental. I did choose a dwarf because I don't dwarf, and I thought it would be nice. I also like the shorter classes, so your gnomes and stuff, when I have the ability to be smaller classes, just so that it doesn't hinder the visuals of the video. Right here, you can see someone getting down right now. Yeah, they're really going to town here. So you guys are getting some extras in that. Let's turn around here so that we do not get interrupted. So let's talk a little bit about your Elemental Shaman and what it's looking like in alpha. Keep in mind, guys, it is only alpha. So with that being said, and the fact that it is only alpha, don't freak out if you see something that you don't like as far as changes, because it does have the ability to change on a whim. Now let's talk about the gameplay and what it's looking like to be elemental in Legion. Your core combat abilities that are specific to elementals are going to be your Lightning Bolt, Lava Burst, Flame Shock, Earth Shock, Lava Surge. Your mastery here is going to be your elemental overload. So that's going to be super important for your core abilities, such as your chain lightning and your lava burst, that could possibly trigger a second similar spell that will cause 75% of the normal damage in Maelstrom generation and no threat. So this is going to be super crucial as a part of your spec specific, since a lot of these in the revamp, the mastery is different per spec. So let's talk about what it's looking like here. Here are, here's your main abilities. Obviously, intellect is the thing here. Here's a look at your spell book so that you can see what is still here, what they might have changed, what they might have brought back from previous use. Here's all of the things. Here's your beautiful passive abilities, as well as we just talked about the elemental overload. So here's what we're looking at. Let's dive right in and let's deal with these talents, shall we? So with your talents, you're going to notice that they're making you choose between a lot of items here, and they have added some new abilities as well. So let's talk about the first set. So for your first set, you have your Path of Flame. This is a passive ability. Your Lava Burst deals 10% more damage and causes your Flame of Shock to spread from the target to a nearby enemy, which is pretty legit. Your Earthen Range, which is also a passive ability. You're damaging spells incite the earth around you to come to your aid for 6 seconds. This is awesome that it's dealing with the elements here, repeatedly dealing a specific amount of fire damage to your most recent attacked target. Your Totem Mastery, this is something that you guys know what this is. This summons 4 totems that increase your combat abilities. Your Resonance Totem, this generates 1 Maelstrom every 1 second. Your Storm Totem, this increases the chance of your Lightning Bolt to trigger Elemental Overload by 10%. Your Ember Totem, this does increase Flame Shock damage, obviously because it's an Ember, over time by 20%. And your Tailwind Totem, this does increase haste by 2%. I'm actually going to use this. This does have a 30-second cooldown, but I'm going to pop it here so that we can see what this looks like in game. For your second set of abilities, you do have your Gust of Wind. This is an instant cast. It hurls you forward. I used this quite a bit in my Class Hall acquisition quest that I did for Elemental. I thought it was quite fun. Something definitely fun to play around with. You also have your Ancestral Guidance. This is an instant ability. Keep in mind it is a 2-minute cooldown. For the next 10 seconds, 20% of your damage and healing is converted to healing on the 3 nearby injured party or raid members. This is pretty neat, pretty nice, and I appreciate that you get to heal a little bit while you're DPSing. The third set here is going to be your Wind Rush totem. It summons a totem at the target location for 15 seconds. It is on a 2-minute cooldown. It does continually grant all allies who pass within 10 yards 60% increased movement speed for 5 seconds. I can see a lot of instances, especially if you're trying to help your raid be able to duck and dodge mechanics on the fly to be able to increase that movement ability. Your Lightning Surge totem. This does replace the disabling totem. It is a 45-second cooldown. Summons a totem at the target location that gathers electrical energy from the surrounding air and then explodes after 3 seconds to stun all enemies within 8 yards. I think this is pretty legit, probably useful in PvP if there are those of you out there who are still trying to keep the Elemental Shaman dream alive in your PvP life. You also have your Earth Grab totem here, of course. It is a 30-second cooldown. This summons a totem at the target location for 20 seconds. This totem pulses every 2 seconds. This does root all enemies within 10 yards for 5 seconds. Enemies previously rooted by the totem instead suffer 50% movement speed reduction. You also have your Voodoo totem, which again is an instant ability, but it's also a 30-second cooldown. This does summon a totem. That totem hexes all enemies within 8 yards into frogs, which are incapacitated and unable to attack or cast spells. Damage or leaving the area will interrupt this effect. So this is probably going to be super useful when it comes to CCing certain adds during a boss fight, as well as in PvP if you're choosing to be elemental and be able to take advantage of that. Keep in mind you'll want to make sure that you're calling this out in any of your raid scenarios and or your PvP so that somebody does not give damage to them and remove that effect and essentially waste that cooldown. For your level 60 set, you're looking at Elemental Blast. This is a 12-second cooldown, quite a bit of a long cast time. Does harness the raw power of the elements, dealing a pretty good amount of elemental damage and increasing your critical strike, haste, and mastery by 1200 for 10 seconds. Your Ancestral Swiftness increases haste by 10% and your attack speed by 10% as well. And then, of course, your good old-fashioned Echo of Elements. This does make it where your Lava Burst has 2 charges. I do like this one. This is one that I use currently as... I do use this currently as Elemental. And other effects that reset its remaining cooldown will instead grant 1 charge. For your level 75, you're looking at Elemental Fusion. This is a passive ability. Your Flame Shock has a 5% increased chance to trigger your Lava Surge, which I talked about in the beginning. Your Lava Surge, this is a passive ability. Your Flame Shock damage over time has a 10% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on your Lava Burst, which is one of your most powerful spells and is an integral part of Elemental's rotation, whether you're doing PvE or PvP. And it does cause your next Lava Burst to be instant, which is pretty awesome just because there is quite a long cast time on the Lava Burst, similar to Destruction's Chaos Bolt. Also have the Primal Elementus. This is your passive ability. Your Earth, Fire, and Storm elements are drawn from your Primal Elemental, 80% more power than the regular elementals. With an additional ability, you can gain direct control over them, which is pretty nice. As you guys do see, you still have your Earth Elemental and you also have your Fire Elemental. Those are still a part of what being a Elemental Shaman is all about. You also have in the same talent set, you have your Magnitude, which is another passive ability. When an enemy with your Flame Shock takes damage from Earthquake, gouts of Magna will erupt at their feet, dealing additional damage. Doesn't say how much additional damage, but it is there. I suppose we could probably test that to see what that looks like. For your level 90 set, you have your passive ability Lightning Rod. Your damaging spells have a 10% chance to make your target a lightning rod. When your nature spells damage a lightning rod, they deal 20% additional damage to the target and to all other enemies within 20 yards. Pretty powerful. I could see some instances when this would be pretty legit to have. In the same set, you do have your Storm Elemental. This does replace your Fire Elemental. It's an instant ability, does have the same 5-minute cooldown as your Fire Elemental. Now, this calls forth the Greater Storm Elemental to hurl gusts of wind at the caster's enemies for 1 minute. I'm actually going to take that because I'm interested as to what that looks like. So let me grab that and make sure... I want to take that before I forget, because I want to make sure that I pop that so that you guys can see what that looks like. You also have Aftershock. This is a passive ability. Your Aftershock spells refund 25% of all Maelstrom spent on them. So that's pretty legit. I can see some instances when that would be useful. It is nice to have these choices here. Your level 100, which of course should be the creme de la creme of all of your abilities here. You have Ascendance, which is a 3-minute cooldown. However, with the 3-minute cooldown, obviously it's pretty powerful. You can transform into a Flame Ascendant for 15 seconds, replacing Chain Lightning with Lava Beam, removing the cooldown on Lava Burst and increasing the damage of Lava Burst by the amount equal to your critical strike chance. This is a huge set of abilities here that this is giving you, and I can see a lot of instances when this is really going to be OP. With that, you also have your Ice Fury. Does have a little bit of a cast time. It is a 30-second cooldown. This hurls frigid ice at the target, dealing a certain amount of frost damage and causing your next 4 frost shocks to deal 400% increased damage. This also is going to give you 24 Maelstrom generation when you use it. This is another super powerful ability, and I think what's going to come down to it with these 3 sets here is just going to be you picking and choosing per situation and then finding out what works well for your style of gameplay. You also have your Liquid Magma Totem, which we talked a little bit about that earlier in conjunction with some of your totems. I think you got a buff or something different happen there. Sometimes the totem, summons a totem at the target location for 15 seconds that does hurl liquid magma at a random nearby target every 1.0 second, dealing fire damage to all enemies within 8 yards. Now this here, it's a 1-minute cooldown. I don't know that damage that it gives, because it's so spread damage and it's such a tiny amount of damage, I probably wouldn't use this as an elemental shaman. I would probably stick with my Ascendance and or my Ice Fury. But I do, I like this. I'm actually going to choose this ability because I do want to see, I want to see what that looks like, actually, because I don't think I've ever seen that. And then I'll swap into the Ice Fury as well to be able to see what that looks like. So there was a couple things that I wanted to see how they worked. So let's go over here. And, oh, looks like I have unspent talent points. I liked my Gust of Wind. We'll just put that up here. I think I chose Echo of Elements. And then, I guess these don't really matter at the end of the day, to be perfectly honest. So, let's see what we've got going on here. Here's just so we can look at the spell animation so that you can see what we're dealing with. I guess that's okay. I never really like the chain. I like the chain lightning, obviously, but I expect more from the lightning bolt. I wish it was a little bit beefier. There goes your shocks here. Definitely improved animation on the lava. The lava burst actually looks like a lava burst instead of a turd being hurled at the target. I definitely appreciate what they've done here. Here is your ability that you get from your artifact weapon, your little guy that pops out here. Let's see what the Stormkeeper looks like as soon as this guy goes away. Here's your Frost Shock. That's pretty nice still. And, oh, that was what that ability was for with the magma, as we talked about the earthquake. Pretty sure, if I recall, that's what did that. And then so we have our lightning. Here's your 4 totems. The totems were a vast improvement, in my opinion. I think they did a lot better job here with these totems. I super appreciated them. Oh, okay, yeah, this is pretty cool. Not gonna lie, I do dig this. I dig this view, guys. This is pretty legit. So that's your turning into... that replaced the fire elemental, if you guys remember when we took that talent set. I don't know. It's up to you on what you think you want to use. Once again, I'm just going to highlight this lava burst. I'm super impressed with this lava burst. I'm not going to lie. I really think that they took what that lava burst meant and kind of highlighted it for sure, because it was... I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, wow, Belle, you're kind of a wench for talking about that. But the lava burst always lacked something for me in its animation, and I think this was really what was needed. Instead of those weird, like, turds summoning from your arms and being thrown, which, as you see, that's what's happening there. So definitely liking it, digging what they're doing. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Oh, this was that. I had a lot of fun with that gust of wind when I did this the first time. But that's what you're looking like in Elemental. If you're watching this video, please make sure you give me a like. That tells me that I'm doing a good job and you appreciate my work here. If you are new to the PWNCAST channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you can see all the things in Legion Alpha and hear all the awesome news coming your way. I'm going to get on out of here. I'm still on the hunt to find the land of the tacos.